Hi guys, welcome back to the Gesher Project. It's been a while. This week we're going to be diving into the world of values. Yay, fun. I mean that seriously, values are fun. The article form of this piece will break down the what of defining your values, kind of figuring out what they are and why you define them as your values. And then the recording or this discussion will illuminate the why and the how, as well as best practices for using your values to their highest ability. So if you haven't read the article yet, or if you're tuning into Gesher for the first time, please feel free to check out the article by clicking on the link. Now or later or whenever the mood strikes you, whatever you want. But the article kind of comes first. So also I want to start off with a disclaimer. I know that I said we were going to dive into modesty in this piece, but I realized that in order for us to discuss things like modesty or relationships or religious code of law or halacha, we have to go back to the foundation. And I think without foundations or guideposts, we're kind of blindly running around trying to understand our lives, and that's not what the point of this project is. The point of this project is to build a steady foundation of understanding so that we can best live our lives. And values are one of the main foundations that you need to have in order to have a solid life. And if you want to, you have to build the house before you paint the walls, right? So we start with values and we build our way up. And that being said, for the next few weeks, we're going to be exploring values and respect and boundaries as preparation for an in-depth discussion about modesty. So stay tuned for that, but it's really about building our way up. So let's start off with a question. Why? Why do we need to live a life directed or guided by values? Who cares? Why do values matter? Why do we need them? So I'll answer that question with the what. Values are our juice. Values are your own personal set of principles or standards. So the dictionary defines values as the judgments you make about what is important in life. I don't like that definition. I don't usually like textbook definitions of things ever. That's kind of why this project exists. But I like Brené Brown's definition of values. She says that values are the things that exist to light your way. So if you know what your values are, you know where you're headed. If you know where to turn to, the core things to turn to when your life feels dark or stormy, if you know which behaviors or actions or beliefs you need to hold on to, that lights the way for a better life. So we pick and live by our values because they give us a sense of strength and stability. The world is very shaky and wobbly and can feel weak. And, we human beings like a sense of support. And that's what values really are. They're your foundation and they're your sense of support. There is a key point that I want to address here. In putting together this piece about values, I kept coming across the same issue. And I've been wanting to bring this topic to the forefront of the conversation for the 2 years since Gesher has come into existence. But I keep stopping myself. And the reason is because values have a really bad reputation. It was very hard for me to figure out how to approach this without talking about it, but I realized we have to talk about it. So in order to explain how to use your values to light the way in your life, we actually have to talk about how not to use them. So in order to understand why they exist, we have to understand how not to use them. I think there's a really fuzzy gray line between good and bad practices. And again, I find people shying away from having discussions about values or assigning values to their life because there's a negative connotation assigned to them. So I'll give you an example. My values are integrity, faith, and family. I live my life with those three things in mind, and if I use them correctly, that means they serve as a checks and balance system for when life gets hectic. I come back to those things and I say, am I living with those three things? And if not, then I need to, get my house in order. So what that means is if I state my values, I have to live with them. But living with your values does not and should not give you an excuse to become sanctimonious. You don't rank higher on the ladder of life by treating people poorly based on your values. I didn't suddenly become queen of the world and chief of everything, that is all kind and good. If I use my values to knock people upside of the head, it doesn't matter that my value is integrity because I'm obviously not using my values with integrity. So, you can't value the environment and then use the environment as a way to make people feel bad about themselves if they value it differently than you. And you can't value spirituality and then look down on people who value it differently than you or define it differently than you. So, it doesn't work. And what happens if we start using our values as a way of judging what other people are doing wrong with their lives? Aren't values supposed to make you higher and more illuminated, and they're supposed to put you in a higher state of consciousness? But if you start dumping on people, that's not, you're not using your values. And I think part of the issue is that the word value in modern society has we've used it as a way to leverage ourselves over people. And I find that I do this all the time, which is why I'm bringing this up. When we feel bad about ourselves or we feel weak and we go back to our values, and they're supposed to make us feel stronger and better about ourselves, and they're supposed to help us, get off the ground and back on our feet. But they're not supposed to make us, they're not making us better than anybody else. So when you feel bad about yourself and then you pick the things that make you tick, you pick your values, and then you present yourself to society when you're puffed up chest and say, look at me, here I am. I'm better, I'm stronger, I'm more conscious and mentally aware than you, and you suck. So that's not a value. That's acting like a jerk. That's not what values are. Values are a code of behavior by which we should strive to live our life. They're supposed to help us make healthier decisions, treat people more kindly, and it's basically supposed to help you focus in on a more meaningful lens of the world. So values are not an excuse for shame. And that's really the point I want to drive home. In picking your values, in coming back to your values and using them in your life, use them as a way to connect with people, even if people's values are different than yours. Don't use them as an excuse to make people feel bad about themselves, because those are not values. Okay, so then how do we use our values? We should use them to light our path. If you know what your values are and why you picked them, then you'll be able to better understand how to use them. So I'll go back to my examples. One of my examples is integrity. So to me, that means that I show up for the job. If there's something that has to get done, I show up, I do it, I'm honest about it. And if I'm having an issue, I say so. I don't shy away because I'm embarrassed. I don't, throw my responsibility on other people. That's not what integrity is. But if I know what integrity is and I know how to use it and I know how to base my path based on that particular value. So then how do you decide what your values are? That's what the article is about today. So head over to the Gesher Project for a more comprehensive breakdown on the topic, as well as an exploration of how values shape the fundamental rules that we set up for ourselves in our own lives. I also included a little bit of a story about how I came to my core list of values, which I really enjoyed writing, and I hope you guys enjoy reading. So next time we're going to dive into respect. And the interesting thing about respect, like values, I found that we use the word respect to disrespect ourselves and the entire world around us. So what we're going to dive into next time is what respect is, how to use it properly, and how to use respect to fix the world instead of breaking it. So onwards.